So why did I choose to focus this report on lung cancer and what makes it such a critical area for both healthcare and investment? A couple reasons. Some objective and empirical, some personal. Um, from an objective and empirical standpoint, lung cancer is responsible for more cancer deaths worldwide than any other type of cancer out there at present. It's either the first or second most commonly diagnosed form of cancer. Usually, if it's coming in second place, it's simply breast cancer that's edging it out there. So there's real sort of clinical need, if you will, to provide better advancements in the space. In addition to that, the amount of big time mainstream biopharmaceutical players from an industrial standpoint who are developing products in the space is substantial. So there's some areas where you might have small to mid cap or even private companies really sort of driving the advancements forward. I would say cancer and lung cancer in particular is a rich man's game. And then just from a personal standpoint, I've got a family member who's been afflicted with lung cancer. My mother passed away from it coming up on 13 years ago now. So it's always kind of resonated with me as something that I'd love to be able to bring and share knowledge about to the various masses out there, and being able to hopefully be able to drive consequential action through financial allocation might be able to allow me to do something about it and help some people out there as a result. So that's sort of my little personal nugget with respect to that. So I would say that this question is actually tethered together. So the major challenge in treatment is diagnosis. The major challenge in diagnosis is early detection or early diagnosis. And I'll go ahead and sort of walk through each aspect individually here. So first and foremost, most lung cancers are so deadly and diabolical because they're only caught at a very, very late stage. So most of the symptoms that you would express clinically with lung cancer would be things like shortness of breath, aggressive cough, potentially coughing up blood, but they're somewhat generalized in nature. You wouldn't be able to say, you've got shortness of breath, therefore you have lung cancer. Normally it's a checklist, 20 to 30 diseases long that you're going through as a clinician, trying to basically check things off the list and say, all right, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. Well, maybe it's lung cancer. By the time you get to that stage, your cancer is probably pretty progressed and is usually either sitting in stage 3 or stage 4. At which point in time, you're not looking at curative options via, say, surgical resection or something along those lines. You're looking at basically trying to extend a very, very short period of life that you have available to you there. So one of the reasons, kind of stepping back up the pipe a little bit here, one of the reasons why diagnosis is a bit of a challenge, or at least has been a challenge in years past, and that's changing a little bit now, is that unlike other well-known types of cancer like breast cancer or prostate cancer, which have biannual mammogram screenings or PSA, serum PSA levels being leveraged along with prostate exams for those two main types of cancer. Really, really well established kind of screening protocols, which aren't 100% effective, but by and large are accepted by the biomedical community as an effective kind of first means of defense of identifying issues before they spread and metastasize. And one of the things actually about prostate cancer is if you catch it early, anywhere stage 3 and before, your chances of survival past 5 years are upwards of 98%. So early detection leads to early intervention, which leads to much, much better clinical outcomes. In this regard, I would say that the diversity of, or is it the heterogeneity, the diversity of lung cancer, basically any cancer, is something that's not a new concept in the field of tumor and cancer research. It's being able to identify variable factors and sort of oddities within those tumors that are unique to a particular type of disease space. So, for instance, one of the big innovations about 15 to 20 years ago was the identification of the EGFR gene as a potential correlate with lung cancer, and therapies such as gefetinib and erlotinib were developed to interfere with this malfunctioning EGFR gene that's come into play. More recent advancements in leveraging tools like next-gen sequencing, companies like Illumina and Pacific Biosciences putting out great sequencers in today's day and age to help with things like that, in addition to various multi-omics approaches related to diagnosis, have identified even more exciting ways to attack lung cancer, most often in the non-small cell lung cancer space. One area in particular that's worthy of note are PD-1 and PD-L1 treatments and inhibitors that are either just entering the market or kind of in the later stages of development at this juncture in time. So very, very exciting technology that's being developed on that front, very promising. And once again, it's usually the bigger players who are operating in that space. So think the AstraZenecas, the Sanofi's, Novartis's, Roche's of the world to that end. So small cell lung cancer is pretty much almost exclusively linked to heavy smoking. Unlike non-small cell lung cancer, particularly non-small cell adenocarcinoma, which tends to be more frequent in non-smokers than smokers, small cell lung cancer almost exclusively linked to smokers, and it's very, very aggressive, which means that by the time folks are diagnosed with it, it's usually palliative care that's being leveraged, or basically you're just looking to try and extend life by a little bit. So as a result, you're dealing with things like radiotherapy to try and shrink any tumors that might have been identified, and following that up with system-wide chemotherapies like cisplatin, irinotecan, or etoposide, or carboplatin, or something along those lines. Now, we're fortunate that there are a couple of targeted immunotherapies, in particular some immune checkpoint inhibitors dealing with the PD-1 and PD-L1 ligands, such as etolizumab and durvalumab, which are leveraged sometimes in conjunction with chemotherapeutics to enhance the clinical outcomes of patients. So we're talking about enhancements of overall survival and progression-free survival, which usually end up being somewhere in the range of 3 to 6 months or something along those lines over their tested baseline. So it's not a significant step forward, but when you're dealing with a cancer that's that aggressive, you'll take any sort of advantages that you can get. So that's kind of the state of affairs with small cell lung cancer. And the players in that space, by and large, are the large pharmaceutical firms. Lung cancer is not a place for small scale or even mid scale players. You're talking big firms, AstraZeneca, Sanofi, and Roche as some of those key players therein. So there's a couple of aspects that jump to mind here. So first and foremost, AI can really be leveraged in conjunction with the remits of pathologists to more accurately diagnose particular types of cancer based off of tumor images, or tumor images in conjunction with biomarker analysis. So you're able to take all of this complex web of information, bring it together in a manner that is parallelizable or can be fed into some sort of a model, and you're able to predict out with a potentially greater degree of confidence than you would if you were just heuristically eyeballing this information without any sort of additional analytical utility, and make more informed decisions about what the actual type of specific subtype of cancer is you're dealing with. And as a result of that, you can better titrate treatment approaches to individual patients. So that's the first bit with respect to diagnosis there and leveraging AI and liquid biopsies there. mRNA vaccines, I think it's probably the most exciting development in the lung cancer space of the last 10 to 15 years, is leveraging mRNA vaccines for lung cancer. Two big names in the space for that, just like COVID, BioNTech and Moderna. So focusing on those two ones, folks. They're both in clinical trials right now with their mRNA vaccines. Treatment in the lung cancer space over the last 20 to 30 years, one of the biggest shifts that you end up seeing is a shift away from systemic therapeutics, such as common chemotherapies like cisplatin, carboplatin, and etoposide that are developed by firms like Eli Lilly, Bristol Myers Squibb, Sanofi, and GlaxoSmithKline, and a bigger focus on targeted therapeutics. So first and foremost with the EGFR receptor and developments of defentinib and erlotinib that occurred back in 2003 and 2004 with firms like AstraZeneca. So the evolution of that subsequently has led to further developments and identification of additional therapeutic targets like mutations in the MET, PD1, and PD-L1 genes that are currently being targeted by firms like Novartis, Merck, and Roche, all of whom, once again, are huge players in the space. And this continued reliance and development in the area of targeted therapeutics is going to continue to grow and to diversify over the course of the next 15 to 20 years in the lung cancer ecosystem, I'd say.